Bridging to the future. This is about 4 key concepts paired in tension with each other: belonging and bridging, and othering and breaking. Let me offer some brief introductions now to what I mean by these 4 words. I believe the concept of othering, or seeing people not only as different, but as less deserving and not of equal dignity as us. We call these problems racism, nationalism, homophobia, or cancel culture. Breaking is othering in action. When we engage in breaking, we deny the full stories, complexities, and even sometimes the humanity of those we consider other. Their suffering does not count as much as ours. The solutions that I want to offer to othering and breaking are belonging and bridging. Belonging serves as an inspiration and orientation in the world. A world built on belonging means that one must have what is necessary to co-create and participate in making the world one lives in. Belonging means agency for all members of society. It is closely associated with dignity and being seen. While in a sense we already belong, it is still important that we are acknowledged as belonging and that we acknowledge the belonging of others. At a foundational, and I would say spiritual level, belonging also means that there is no other. Whose life is unimportant? Who does not matter? Show me the person not made of stardust. Not only do we all count, but we are all connected. We all belong. And yet, that is not our daily experience. We are situated differently from each other. We see the world differently from each other. How am I to be my brother's and sister's keeper when they see the world so differently than I do? We must do something in a world where we practice not seeing the humanity of the other. This is where bridging comes in. Bridging is both a practice and a position. Can I become a bridge? I may ask myself. And this immediately calls up other questions. Do I want to bridge? Or why should I? By definition, if someone is other, there's apparently a distance between us. We live in a world full of fractures and one where polarization, division from another, and isolation ourselves have become increasingly normalized. We live in a world where fear is often more visible than love or hope. But it does not have to be that way. There is another way. To acknowledge and reclaim our ability to see one another and to live with one another. Where there is an apparent other, there's a need to explore how to bridge. This is an invitation to reject a future organized around fear and death, and instead organize and call into being a world where we recognize and live into our connection with one another, the earth, and ourselves. I believe bridging is one of the most important ways to see and celebrate one another and ourselves. We are not separate from each other or separate from the world. The claim of connectedness may seem counterintuitive or even strange to those of us raised on the myth of separation from nature and each other and the need to dominate others and the earth. But it is the claim of separation that is strange, not to say fear-inducing. The other often represents a fear, the threat of what is unknown and uncertain. Bridging recognizes the need for a larger, unfolding story that holds our aspiration for a shared future based on belonging, not fear and separation. Bridging helps us build practices to imagine a shared story for the future, rooted in belonging for all human beings and the earth itself. Bridging is about the emerging stories of moving toward us and us, not us and them. And while understanding, bridging, and belonging help us to make sense of the moment we're in, they are also creating possibilities and a story for the future. This work of bridging is urgent because we're living right now in a world where there is a great deal of fragmentation. The collective anxiety we are experiencing due to the pace of change in the world today can be met with fear and more anxiety, or can be met with creating opportunities to turn toward one another and build a larger we that can face the future together. I believe bridging is one such opportunity. Bridging is a powerful way to address fragmentation and create a shared story for our future. I believe understanding the threats of othering and the orientation of belonging will help us meet the future with the urgency we need. Bridging is a story rooted in belonging, where the we is reconstituted, where everyone has an agency to shape the world we live in. Even though we may appear different to one another, we have more in common than we do differences, and we can create new commonalities. If we embrace this recognition, the we of the future will not only be larger but better. We will still have differences, but the boundaries between us will be more porous. Much of what happens in the emerging future depends on us. I believe that future is worth living, and the road to that future is one about bridging and belonging. We cannot imagine a future where we all belong unless we learn to bridge. I believe life and the world are full of contingencies, and what we do and do not do matters. We cannot know how life will treat us, but the best chance of having an impact is not to control the unknown, but to engage the possibilities. We are not helpless, especially if we act and co-create together. At the core of bridging is the willingness to stay open and to recognize the inherent humanity of all people. This is the charge of belonging. This is my charge in life. I hope it is, or may become yours.